In basketball, size matters. That's the cliche. That's what you've always heard. Tall kids get noticed first, they get picked first, and they get told they might have a shot at the NBA. But here's the truth. Height gets you in the door, but it doesn't keep you in the room. And some players, some legends, walked into that room at 5'3", 5'5", or barely 6 feet tall, and they didn't just stay there, they dominated. They defied biology, they defied scouting reports, they defied the entire basketball world. These are the greatest players in NBA history who stood 6 feet tall or shorter. They're not just fan favorites or novelty acts, they're legends. Guys who rewrote the rules, challenged the odds, and proved that when you have the heart of a giant, size doesn't matter. Tyrone Mugsy Bogues, height 5'3", the shortest player in NBA history, full stop. Now you might think Mugsy made the league because of some viral moment or just to be a sideshow attraction, but no, Mugsy was a first round draft pick in 1987, selected 12th overall by the Washington Bullets. That means teams wanted him, they believed in his game, and they were right to do so. Mugsy went on to play 14 seasons in the NBA, longer than most 7-footers. And while he couldn't dunk, he could disrupt. He was fast, he was annoying, and he was everywhere on the floor. Career totals, over 6,000 assists, nearly 1,400 steals, and countless defensive moments where he stripped the ball from guys nearly twice his size. And that's not an exaggeration. There's the famous photo next to him and his teammate Manute Bol, who stood 7'7". Mugsy looked like a ball boy, but on the court, he was a general. He's the all-time leader in assists and steals for the Charlotte Hornets, a franchise cornerstone, an actual basketball savant. And he never let the height gap intimidate him, not even when he was guarding Michael Jordan in the 1995 playoffs. There's a story, maybe a myth, maybe truth, that Jordan tried to get in his head by calling him a midget and daring him to shoot. Did it rattle him? Maybe. Did it stop him? Never. Because Mugsy Bogues didn't just survive in the NBA, he thrived. Next up, Earl Boykins, 5'5", 135 pounds, smaller than some high school players. But Earl Boykins was a certified bucket. He played 13 seasons in the NBA and carved out a career as one of the most dynamic spark plugs off the bench in league history. And if you ever saw him play, you'll remember it. Because he didn't look like he belonged until he started scoring, and suddenly he was the best player on the court. In 2004, he dropped 32 points on Detroit after dislocating his finger. And in 2007, he scored 36 against Atlanta, tying his career high. But it wasn't just the scoring, it was the way he played. His change of pace, his ball handling, his fearlessness. Earl would drive into the paint, surrounded by guys a foot taller, and still finish through contact. Oh yeah, and get this, at 135 pounds, he could bench press 315. That's 2 times his body weight. That's more than some centers, more than a lot of linebackers. Earl Boykins was small, but he was mighty. Spud Webb was 5'7", and yet he had one of the most iconic dunk contest performances in history. In 1986, he entered the slam dunk contest against a loaded field, including his own teammate Dominique Wilkins. Dominique was the reigning champ, 6'8", a human highlight reel. Nobody thought Spud had a shot, and then boom, 2 perfect 50s in the final round. Spud won the dunk contest at 5'7". To this day, no one shorter has even competed in the event. And that wasn't the end of it. Spud played over 800 games in the league. He averaged nearly 10 points and 5 assists across a full decade. And in his prime, he dropped 29 points and 17 assists in a single game against the Clippers. He wasn't just an athlete, he was a legitimate starting point guard, running the offense, dishing dimes, and yes, throwing down the occasional dunk just to remind everyone what was possible. When Isaiah Thomas was drafted with the 60th pick in 2011, the last pick in the draft, a lot of people didn't even think he'd make a roster. But he didn't just make it, he owned it. Isaiah, not the Pistons legend, but the Boston Celtics version, eventually became an MVP candidate. In 2016-17, he averaged 28.9 points per game, second only to Russell Westbrook. He was unguardable in the fourth quarter. They even started calling him the king in the fourth. But his most unforgettable moment, May 2nd, 2017. His younger sister China had tragically passed away in a car accident just weeks earlier. And on what would have been her 23rd birthday, Isaiah dropped 53 points in a playoff game against the Wizards. It was a performance drenched in emotion. You could see the grief in his eyes, but his heart unbreakable. He's only 5'8". He's listed at 5'9", but he admitted that he's only really 5'8". And that makes what he did in Boston even more unbelievable, because he wasn't just good for his size, he was good, period. Nate Robinson was the ultimate energy guy. Explosive, confident, electric. At 5'9", Nate had a 44-inch vertical and a heart that just didn't quit. 3-time slam dunk contest champion. Let's say that again, 3-time dunk champ. He beat Dwight Howard, dunked over Spud Webb, and even dunked over a full-size NBA player wearing a Superman cape. But here's what people forget. Nate Robinson could hoop as well. He dropped 41 points on the Pacers in 2009, and when Derrick Rose went down in Chicago, it was Nate who stepped up, dropping 23 points in a single playoff quarter against the Nets in 2013. He even blocked Yao Ming once, no joke, the 7'6" giant. Nate skied, met him at the rim and rejected him. He was short, but the only thing louder than his height was his bounce. And then there's the answer, Allen Iverson, listed at 6 feet tall. Most people say he was really 5'11", but doesn't matter. Iverson was pound for pound, inch for inch, the most dominant small player in NBA history. Scoring titles 4, MVPs 1, All-Star appearances 11, Hall of Fame induction, automatic. And more than the numbers, it was the way he played. Crossovers, tough drives, relentless pace. He took more punishment than any guard in history. Driving into the trees, drawing contact, getting up and doing it all over again. In 2001, he led the Sixers to the NBA Finals. Game 1 versus the Lakers, 48 points and the iconic step over on Tyrone Mugsy. In 2005, he dropped 60 points on the Magic while recording 6 assists and 5 steals. Iverson didn't play like he was 6 feet, he played like he was 7. He's not just the greatest small player, he's one of the greatest ever players, period. Now there are a few quick shout-outs. Calvin Murphy, 5'9", Hall of Famer, All-Star, averaged 17 points per game for his career, deadly mid-range game, lightning quick hands, and he still holds the title for the shortest Hall of Famer in NBA history. And here's something to think about as we wrap up. There are a few debatable exclusions from this list, because let's be honest, some players are listed at just over 6 feet, but probably aren't. Chris Paul, he might say 6'1", but take a second look. The other Isaiah Thomas, the Pistons legend, listed at 6'1", but most say he was closer to 5'11". And that opens up a whole new conversation. Who else really belongs on this list? Who's the next undersized guard ready to take the league by storm? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let's give the short kings the credit they deserve. And remember, you might be short on height, but if you've got heart, you're already taller than most. My name is Damian Peters, and I'll see you in the next one.